The last part of our video is moving our monster into our background layer and adding a drop shadow. So we're going to talk about how to do that really quickly. It shouldn't take us very long to do that. So just like we did before earlier when we were moving body parts um, into our untitled layer, you can either duplicate your stamp or we can click and drag that stamp into our background layer. Once I do that and drop it, then you can see my monster is here. I'm going to hit Command T. Remember, that's our free transform tool. And just to reference, remember our free transform tool allows us to scale, rotate, skew, distort, change perspective. Those are the 5 things we can do with our free transform tool. If you want to warp something, you have to go to Edit, Transform, and Warp. Okay? That's the only way to get to that one. So with my free transform tool on, I'm going to again hold shift on my keyboard, scale my monster down, and bring him up. We're going to keep him down here just like this. The reason that his feet are gone is because of our stamp that we created over in Untitled 1. If you want all of like his feet and the bottom of his legs to show, you're going to have to resize those other layers, all the body parts, so that the legs show before you stamp all of the layers together. Okay, so in my background, like I said, I am going to scale him down. I'm going to keep him right at the bottom of my screen. I'm going to move him just a little bit more to the right. And I'm going to accept that transformation by hitting Enter on my keyboard. The next thing that I'm going to do after I unlock my background layer is on layer 1, I'm going to go to Layer, Layer Styles, up here, sorry, and then Drop Shadow. This is going to allow me to add a shadow to my monster. You can see that it already adds the shadow based on some of the styles that are already created in here. Okay, so I have my blend mode on normal. That's what I changed mine to earlier. And I've already set my color to black. So if I click on that, it allows me to choose whatever color of a shadow. If I want to try to match the shadow of the green, I can use the green. Or again, I can use black, whatever I decide to do. I can always go in and I'm going to edit this now. So I'm going to change the opacity, and remember opacity is the transparency of a layer. So how see-through is a layer. So I'm going to drop my opacity down to about 25%. I'm going to change the distance. So this is how far away my shadow is from my object. I'm going to go back to about 150. 151 is fine. Okay. My spread is just going to be how far out does it spread. Okay. So is it the exact width of my object, or is it a little bit wider? Okay. I can also change the size of it. It looks a little bit like a blob there. Okay. So we're going to kind of resize this. I'm going to go about somewhere about 13 pixels. I'm going to change my spread down to about 50%. And that looks pretty good. We're going to click OK to accept that layer style. And now I have a drop shadow behind my object. But when I look at this image, it looks like the background is just a picture, and this person is standing in front of the background, and the shadow is just on top of the picture. So what we need to do is make sure that that shadow lays down flat on the ground. And the way that we're going to do that is by right-clicking over in my layers window, right where it says drop shadow. You can see that that was added underneath my layer. I'm going to right-click on that, and I'm going to hit create layer. That's going to separate my drop shadow from my layer, and so now I can actually transform and skew my shadow to fit the background. So I'm going to hit Command T, and then again, like I was saying earlier, when we can skew, I'm going to hold the Command key on my keyboard, and this is going to allow me to kind of drop that shadow down and skew it to make it look like it's on the grass instead of on a background, okay, like on a picture or a wall, okay? Right there looks pretty good. Okay. So this has just allowed me to, and I'm going to move there we go, match up his legs, and we'll refix this just a bit, and that should be pretty good. Okay, so now it looks like he's actually standing on the background, or actually in that picture instead of just standing in front of a picture of that background, like against that's on a wall. And we've done that just by changing our drop shadow. I need to go ahead and accept that transformation just like I do anytime I hit Command T. And that should be it. So we are finished our monster. The one thing I did notice, like I was talking about earlier, when we made the stamp, the legs, you can't see the feet and the legs. I also just realized that our hand is gone. That's okay for this. But if you'd like to show the hand, again, make sure you go back to our original monster in the Untitled one. Make sure that we scale everything down, and then you'd be able to move him back in there. Okay. The last thing we're going to do, just so you can turn this file in, we are going to turn it in as a PNG, not a .psd. Okay, so not a Photoshop document, but a PNG, a Portable Networks graphic. I'm going to do that by going to File, Export, Quick Export as PNG. All I need to do is make sure that I save it as something that I'm going to remember. In this case, you should save it as something along the lines of the same format we've been using in class. So your last name, which I'll put my last name, and then Frankenstein's monster. Make sure you hit save, and then you can go and turn that into the file submission in Canvas. Okay, thank you very much.